Hello. Hello. Today's class is going to be about speech and its abnormalities. Primarily, we are going to talk about the definition of speech and the main centers involved in the speech, and also the auxiliary, there's coordinating centers, and that is interpretation centers of speech and the cerebral cortex, and how spoken speech, and how we respond to a spoken speech, and how a written speech, how is the speeches of two types, written and spoken, and how suppose we see some visual words and we want to write down, how do we write down that speech, and how a child learns to speak, and the abnormalities of speech. These are the few things that we are going to discuss today. And therefore, and at the end of the section, you should be able to define speech and all the centers, several centers that are important for speech, and also the different abnormalities associated with speech and the various pathways in the cerebral cortex, how the stimulus travels from one region of the cerebral cortex to the other. All the things you should be able to read. Speech is the only human beings can communicate with one another. This we don't see in any other form of species. Animals, they have a special way of communication through producing special type of sounds for each animal. And in this speaking, this is only conformed to human being, and that's very special for human being to communicate with each other. And then we have basically two types of speech, and this is called written speech, spoken words and written words. Then, as I've already told, it is restricted to man only, and this characteristic sound, they are produced only with the animals. When they see a danger or anything else, they produce a characteristic sound, and speech is only restricted to man. The mechanism of speech is very important. And then there are two main important areas in the cerebral cortex that are involved in speech. That is Broca's area, area number 44, that lies below the primary motor cortex. That is area number 4. This Broca's area is area number 44, lying below the primary motor cortex, area number 4. And then we have this Wernicke's area. This is area number 22. It is located in the posterior part of the superior temporal gyrus. Therefore, these are very important areas regarding to speech. Broca's area, area number 44, below the cerebral cortex, and the Wernicke's area, area number 22, in the posterior most part of the superior temporal gyrus, area number 22. This Broca's area, as already told you, it is situated in the frontal lobe, inferior to the area 4. And this is the location of Wernicke's area. Wernicke's area is especially interpretation area. It is a sensory speech area. Whatever signals come here, they are interpreted. The meaning of the signals are analyzed here. Suppose we hear something, the area number 41 and 42, and they are the artery, primary artery areas. Suppose we are hearing some sound. We are just hearing the sound. We don't know the source of the sound, or we cannot identify anything, but just we will be hearing this sound. Whether it's coming from a blast or some dropping of an object or shutting a door, something like that, or somebody shouting. We don't hear, we cannot identify all these things. We only hear a sound, a particular type of sound. When this sound signals, they enter the Wernicke's area. The Wernicke's area is stimulated. Here the localization is done. The source of the sound, whether it is from a blast injury, or whether it is from a anybody making a shouting or something, here we will be able to identify. Therefore, Wernicke's area is an interpretation area. 41 and 42 are just receptive areas, that is primary auditory area. Now coming to Broca's area. When the signals reach the Broca's area, that is inferior to the primary motor cortex, that is area number 4. It is situated inferior to the primary motor cortex. Here, when the signals reach this area, it plans motor patterns. That is what to do next. The signals have been interpreted in the Wernicke's area, that is area number 22, and these signals have gone to the stimulus, has gone to the Broca's area. Now, the plan has to be executed, and this execution, the motor pattern of execution is planned here. This Broca's area is also very important because only planning will not do. The execution part is also very important. Suppose you want to move a leg or move a hand or something you have to do, then you have to execute the plan through motor area. Therefore, this Broca's area sends signals again to motor area. Therefore, the planning of execution is done here of the activities, and the signals are sent to the motor area, and motor area, that is area number 4, in association with other associated motor areas, they send signals to the particular muscles contract and the action is done. Here only planning is done, what motor pattern has to be done, and then short phrases, etc. Here even short phrases are initiated and executed. A little bit of initiation is also here in this case. Now let's see what is Wernicke's area. Here in the figure we are seeing the Wernicke's here in the posterior part of the superior temporal gyrus. That is the blue mark there. The right hand side, it is a Wernicke's area. And the Broca's area. Now here interpretation of the meaning is done here. Suppose you are receiving some sound stimulus from area number 41 and 42. That is the primary auditory area. And now the signals have come to the area number 22. Yeah, there you didn't have any idea about the source of that sound was. Here interpretation of the sound is heard. Yeah, and then here some comprehension of the whatever the information has come, that comprehension, that analysis of the information is done here, and some ideas are found, and then what to do next. How to, suppose somebody is asking you a question, you have to answer the question, the planning part of it, that to be articulated, what to do next. This analysis and formation of ideas extra will occur in this Wernicke's area, area number 22, located in the posterior part of the superior temporal gyrus. Now coming to interpretation centers, we have the visual and auditory association areas, area number 18 and 19, situated in the occipital cortex. And then we have this angular gyrus. The angular gyrus is situated in the posterior part of the Wernicke's area, in the anterior lateral part of the occipital cortex. Posterior to the Wernicke's area, in the anterior lateral part of the cortex. And as already discussed, Wernicke's area is in the posterior most part of the superior temporal gyrus. Then visual and auditory association areas 18 and 19 are in the occipital cortex. This area, angular gyrus, de Jones area is also present in angular gyrus, and this angular gyrus is given the number 39. Angular gyrus number is 39, Broca's area 44, Wernicke's area 22, primary and secondary primary artery areas 41 and 42. These areas you have to remember. Then coming to the angular gyrus, there is a region called the de Jones area is in the angular gyrus. It is the area number 39. And as I've already told you, it lies posterior to the Wernicke's area in the anterior lateral region of occipital cortex. Posterior to the Wernicke's area in the anterior lateral region of occipital gyrus. This area is very important because it feeds visual information. Suppose you are reading a book, that information has to go into your mind. This visual information that is conveyed by words, read from a book. You are reading a book, but reading a book, the first stimulus reaches the area number 17, that is primary visual area, that is area number 17. But this visual information, then it goes to area number 8, but you cannot find the details of the information. You will just see the words. You cannot find the meaning of the words or anything like that. So therefore, this visual information goes from area number 17, that is primary visual area, and then it goes to the association areas, that is interpretation areas, 18, 19. 18, 19, they are lying side by side in the occipital cortex. That goes there. From there, it goes to the anglo-gyrus area number 39. This is very important area for analyzing the visual information. This area is needed to make meaning out of the virtually perceived words. Whatever words you are seeing, you have to make some sense of those words. You just can't see the words, and nothing will happen if you see the words. They should gain some meaning out of those words. Therefore, this meaning is particularly gained when this information goes to the stimulus goes to the anglo-gyrus area number 39, situated in the posterior most part of the anterior lateral part of cerebral cortex in the occipital region. Here it is then. Anterior most part in the anterior lateral part of the posterior most part, anterior lateral part of occipital cortex. This is the anglo-gyrus. Therefore, the words that you have visualized by the area number 17, and it has gone to 18 and 19 interpretation areas. From there, for a detailed analysis, this anglo-gyrus, this information goes to the anglo-gyrus, and this is the area number 39. Let's see the sequence of events. While you are talking, somebody else is talking to you, and you want to answer them back. See the sequence of events. Somebody else has asked you a question, suppose, and you hear the question. This information goes into the area number 41, that is the primary auditory area. Somebody has questioned you, and that sound waves go to the area number 41, that is primary auditory area. And here from here the information goes to the vernix area. Vernix area is area number 22 in the posterior part of the superior temporal gyrus. From the here you have heard something, but you could not make any meaning out of it. The meaning and interpretation and everything is done in the area number 22. Suppose the area 22 is disturbed for some reason. Suppose the area 22 is disturbed for some reason, the interpretation factor will not be there, and you will fail to understand what the other person is saying. Therefore, area number 22, that is vernix area, it's a very important area. You are hearing, all right, what the other person is saying, but you are not able to make anything out of it. Therefore, this stimulus, when it goes to area number 22, that interpretation and understanding is done by this area. Then from area 22, information goes to area 44. Area 44, that is Broca's area, inferior to the primary motor cortex, that is area 4, and other associate motor areas. So that what happens when the signals go to the associate motor areas, then what happens? The appropriate muscles contract, and the person utters the question, that is, he answers back. Therefore, what's happening here is a person has asked you a question, the waves have gone, the stimulus has gone to the area number 41, that is the primary motor area. From there, the signals have gone to area number 22, the vernix area, where whatever you have heard, that has been analyzed and the meaning has been clarified. And from there, the signals have gone to area 44. And from there, the signals have gone to the motor area 4 and other motor areas, adjoining motor areas. And then therefore, the muscles, concerned muscles contract and the person answers back. And therefore, this is the nutshell how we answer somebody's question. And this is in a right-sided person, the left side is dominant. And the left-sided person, the right side is dominant. We are showing the different areas. Here's the primary visual area, area 17, and the associated areas, area 18, and how the signals, this is, we are showing about the visual, the reading part. Suppose you are reading a book or something like that. The primary visual area, the signals travel first there, and then they go to the associated areas, area and 18 and 19, and from there they go to the anglo-gyrus. The anglo-gyrus is very important. The anglo-gyrus is very important because the visual signals analyzed here. The visual signals, whatever you read, the visual signals are analyzed in the angler gyrus. Suppose the angler gyrus is destroyed, then visual signals will not be there. Therefore, a visual signal angler gyrus is not necessary for a somebody is asking you a question, and if you want to reply, this angler gyrus is not necessary. But if you want to read a book, these visual signals are required. You read a book, do some writing or something like that. If you want to write something, saying something and writing and reading and answering loud reading and writing while reading, all these things require angler gyrus. Angler gyrus in Exner's area, area number 10. And from angler gyrus, again, this information goes to Wernicke's area. Here the interpretation is done, and from here it's going to Broca's area 44, and then it goes to the primary motor area, area 4, and from there it goes to the facial area and motor cortex and articulation of the facial muscle sucker, and we start talking. Therefore, one thing you have to remember, angler gyrus area number 39, the Dijon's area present. This is necessary for analyzing the reading. Suppose you are reading something and you have to, this area should be intact to understand what you are reading. And Exner's area, area number 10 should be intact. That is lies in the premotor area. We'll be talking about it a little bit later. And then that is also necessary for writing. The next example, let's see what happens when somebody is reading a book. He is reading a book. The sequence of events. How, suppose he wants to read it aloud. Suppose first let's see what happens if a person is reading a book and he wants to read aloud. He has seen book. He is seeing the printed word. And these impulses goes to area number 17. That is primary visual area. The primary visual area. This pathway should be intact. First, the events should reach from the eye to the primary visual pathway. That visual pathway should be intact, because this printed word, this impression should reach the primary visual area, area number 17, and then for this visual pathway should be intact. If the visual pathway is not intact, again there will be disturbance. Then the impulses from the primary visual pathway, they go to area number 18 and 19. That is visual association areas. Here what happens, whatever you have seen in the primary visual area, it will be just a printed matter. Therefore, from there it goes to area. Here a little bit of interpretation is done, seen properly, a little bit of understanding is done. And from there it goes to angler gyrus. It goes to the angler gyrus in the occipital cortex, anterior lateral part of occipital cortex, angler gyrus 39. The written words here are properly analyzed and to internal speech. That is, they are understood properly and they have been converted into internal speech. And from there, it goes to Wernicke's area, area number 22. Here, from here, everything is same. Here, what happens is, first you see the words. This words to be, this impulses to reach area number 17, the visual pathway from the eye to the cerebral cortex should be intact. Any disturbance in that region will also hinder the passage of these impulses to area number 17. Then they are interpreted by the area number 18 and 19. These are visual association areas. Here some properly they are understood. Then from here it goes to the angler gyrus that in the present in the anterolateral part of the occipital cortex. Here what happens is, here proper analysis is done and it is converted into internal memory. Here, from here the information goes to Wernicke's area, area number 22. Here see the primary visual cortex in the cerebral cortex, occipital region, and we see the association areas. We see the angler gyrus, area number 39, anterior lateral part of the occipital cortex. Here, angler gyrus, posterior to Wernicke's region. It is posterior to Wernicke's region, anterior lateral part of occipital cortex, and then from there, this This is for reading. We are speaking for what is visual impression must go to Angler-Gyrus, otherwise it will not be analyzed. And from here it is going to vernix area. From the vernix area, the rest of the path is similar. It goes to the area number 44, Broca's area, below the primary cortex area number 4, and from there to the primary motor area, area number 4, and from there to the muscles concerned, and the process of contraction and the articulation begins. And this is for somebody is reading, if somebody wants to read aloud, he is seeing the reading material and then he is pronouncing it loudly. This is the way how it is done. Then here it's another picture of the Angler-Gyrus. Here see the vernix area, Angler-Gyrus lying posterior to it, and here we have this fasciculus is there. Here we are having the Broca's area. This arcade fasciculus. See the communication between vernix area and Broca's area. Arcade fasciculus are there. Vernix area and Broca's area. Information being conveyed from occipital cortex to ear. Your frontal lobe. Frontal lobe inferior to the ear, primary motor cortex. Information is conveyed from ear to ear with the help of arcade fasciculus. Angler-Gyrus is in the posterior part of vernix area. This is what I have been discussing. If the person wants to express loud what is reading, the information goes to vernix area and then again to Broca's area, area number 44, and then to area 4, another motor area. This is similar to the, suppose we are answering something. The same information goes from the vernix, from area number 41 to vernix area, from vernix area to Broca's area to area number 4, and from there to other motor. This is the same pathway as if the person wants to, but only difference we see here is that the information is going to the Angler-Gyrus. That for a reading, the reading wants to be pronounced loud. If you want to pronounce loud the whatever you are reading, the information should go from this visual area to the visual associated areas. It's going to the Angler-Gyrus, and this is not there when we are speaking directly. When we are speaking directly, this is not there. The information need not go to Angler-Gyrus. But when we are reading from a book and we want to read it loud and convey the information, and this information should definitely go to the Angler-Gyrus, and this difference is there. You should please see the difference. Therefore, Angler-Gyrus should be there if the person want to express loud whatever he is reading. Suppose, okay, the man has read some book. He wants to write it. If the man wants to write what he has seen, then what are the course of action? The appropriate, what happens? How the appropriate motor areas will be stimulated to produce written words on the paper. They will see in the details. This why the man has seen something on the book and he wants to write. Now what is this? The course of action is same, but what happens is he has read something, the information has gone to this primary visual area, that is area number 17, and from there it has gone to 18, 19, and from there it has gone to Angler-Gyrus, and there it has been analyzed, and from there it has gone to vernix area, from the vernix area it has gone to Broca's area. Okay, that's all okay, the same thing for reading. And from there what happens is it goes to isthmus area. It is present in the premotor cortex. It is area number 10. And this area is important to produce written words on the paper. Now, mechanism of speech involves coordinate activities. And there are central speech apparatus and peripheral speech apparatus. Central speech apparatus, cortical regions, all these things. Peripheral speech apparatus, mouth, tongue, and all these things, vocal cords. These are peripheral speech apparatus. There should be a coordination between a central speech apparatus and peripheral speech apparatus along with the respiratory system. The peripheral speech apparatus along with the respiratory system, they are to the signals sent by the central speech apparatus, that is cerebral cortex. Thus the words are produced only during expression. Yeah, central speech apparatus, mechanism of speech I am talking about. Two types, central speech and peripheral speech apparatus. These are speeches are coordinate effort of these two speech apparatus, these cortical centers and subcortical centers when coming to CNS part. And the peripheral larynx, pharynx, nasal cavity, all these things, vocal cords, all these things, and mouth, lips, and things. These are this peripheral speech apparatus coordinates with the respiratory system, and it is controlled by the central speech apparatus. Yeah, work in coordination. The structure of peripheral speech apparatus, as I've already told you, they work in coordination with the respiratory system. Respiratory system coordination is very necessary. Then under the influence of motor impulses, the respective motor areas of the cerebral impulses are sent from the respective motor areas of the cerebral cortex. We have seen how the impulses travel from the area number 44 to the primary motor cortex. And the primary motor cortex in turn dictates the action of the muscles concerned. Yeah, these are some of the areas we have already shown you. These are the primary artery areas, area number 41, 42, auditory association areas 21 and 22. And these are primary artery areas of 41 and 42. And they perceive only in the sound, but they are not able to, they don't differentiate the type of sound. Differentiation is not done yet, it's only done in Wernicke's area. Then area number 21 and 22, they are artery association areas, and the primary, the interpretation is done here, mainly in area 22, and that's called Wernicke's area. This already I've told you, the perception of written words. Visual pathway should be intact. It's not enough if area number 17 is intact, area number 18 and 19. Visual pathway should be intact. The signals reach from the eyes to primary visual cortex. The pathway of vision should be intact. Otherwise, this will not work. Interpretation of this written speech. The written speech requires merely exnous area number 10. And this also travels along 18. First we visualize with 18 area number 17. It goes to interpretation areas 18 and 19, and then to angular gyrus area number 39, and from there to Wernicke's area, and the coordinated effect of Wernicke's area and angular gyrus. These two information reach the area number 44. From area number 44 again it goes to premotor cortex. No, not premotor, primary motor cortex area number 4, and from there it goes to exness area number 10, and then only we can write something. If exness area number 10 is destroyed, we will not be able to write properly. Degens area is nothing but its area located in the angular gyrus. This is behind the posterior part of the Wernicke's area. Degens area is 39. Angular gyrus is located inside the angular gyrus, posted to the Wernicke's area in the anterolateral part of the occipital cortex in the dominant hemisphere. Right-handed person, left side is dominant, left-handed person, right-handed. It involves the activity of generation of thoughts, ideas, etc. for written speech. Ideas, etc. Generation of thoughts and ideas for written speech, and general ideas also. It activates general ideas and ideas for written speech also. Therefore, anything visualized, for anything that visualized, whether you want to read by yourself, or you want to utter loud, or if you want to write something, this Degens area is important. If you want to write exness area also comes into play. Therefore, when Degens area, that is angular gyrus, is destroyed, and this thing where we cannot read, we cannot understand. We may visualize something, but we cannot understand what those things are. Therefore, that analysis will not be there. Therefore, this area, that is angular gyrus area, is also called visual speech center. And along with Wernicke's area, they form the sensory speech center. Now, expression in the focus in the form of spoken speech. Expression, the form of spoken speech, as we have already discussed, this involves the Broca's area, the information received from Wernicke's area, Degens area. That is, we are reading something. You are reading from above. The information received from Broca's Wernicke's area and Degens area number 39 are coordinated in Broca's area for vocalization. That is for loud reading. This Broca's area is primarily concerned with movements of structures responsible for production of voice, that is articulation and speech. The muscles of articulation are activated, contraction, etc. is concerned with the movements of structures which are responsible for the production. There, planning, everything is done, and from there, the stimulus goes to the area number 4, primary motor cortex. Therefore, what happens is, this Broca's area is destroyed. This articulation, etc. may be affected. Example, it causes vocalization, vocal cords with movements of stomach. Lesions of this cause motor aphasia. That is, but whenever this area number 44 is destroyed, motor aphasia. He is able to understand, he is able to think everything, but this speech production, activation of vocal cords, this thing will be affected. Then the speech becomes defective, motor aphasia. He cannot talk properly. The talking will be of great effect. We'll see, discuss aphasias. There are 3 types: motor aphasia, sensory aphasia, and global aphasia. This I have already told you. Expression in the form of written speech is a function of exnus area. C is the exnus area. It is in the premotor area. In the frontal region, it is in the premotor area, exnus area. In the frontal gyrus, in the premotor cortex. It is area number 10. This is very important for written speech. If you want to write something, you have seen or something you want to write out of your mind also. If you want to write something, this exnus area is very important. If it is destroyed, that written speech will be affected. These are again the different areas. Now coming to the exnus area. Exnus area, continuously I am talking about, it processes when the information has reached the exnus area from Broca's area, it has reached the exnus area. It processes the information received from the Broca's area into detailed pattern. And then along with the motor cortex, that is area number 4, primary motor cortex, information for written speech has to be reached to exnus area, area number 10, present in the premotor cortex. Therefore, information goes to that area, exnus area, area number 10, and along with motor cortex, that is area number 4, they initiate the appropriate muscle action, movements of hands and fingers to produce for writing purpose, all these things. Therefore, when an exnus area works along with the coordination of motor cortex, primary motor area, and they start movement, appropriate movement, initiate the movements of hands and fingers. Suppose this area is destroyed, again a written speech will be affected. The grown-up persons, they make coherent speech. First of all, to make a coherent speech, they must have a clear thought process of ideas and aims. If a person is making a coherent speech, he should have a clear thought process. First, he should have a what to talk. He should have a certain concept for talking, and then that concept should be followed by ideas and expression, how to express it. This is very necessary to make a coherent speech. That is, the word should be in the language we understand. The same thing applies to the while speaking also. The words, somebody is speaking in a language which you are not understanding, that's some foreign language, nothing makes sense even if it goes to Wernicke's area. That you have to bear in mind. That is, a language should be understood. A language should be understood, then only a person will be able to analyze in the Wernicke's area or Anglo-Gyrus or whatever it may be. It should be, and you cannot read a book which is in a foreign language. That thing cannot be analyzed in Anglo-Gyrus. Anglo-Gyrus is not an automatic computer-like thing to analyze everything. Therefore, it should be analyzed only when we know the language. Otherwise, these interpretation centers are useless. Therefore, the person in a known language, only the interpretation centers work in a proper manner. The words are planned in Vernix area, only the language is known. While speaking, one must hear, and another thing is that while speaking, to give a reply back, to answer back, one must hear and understand what is speaking. If he doesn't understand what is speaking, he cannot make a coherent speech. While speaking, one must hear and understand what is speaking. Then he can make a coherent speech. For example, a deaf and dumb people, they cannot make a coherent speech because they cannot hear properly. While speaking, one must hear and understand what they are speaking. Then only these deaf and dumb people are a clear example of it. You see here the ignis area, the premortem cortex, frontal lobe, premortem cortex, ignis area. That is responsible for written speech. That is Broca's area, and they are showing the Dejen's area. That is nothing but the angula gyrus. It is situated in the angula gyrus. You see the arcuate fasciculus, strings of fibers starting from Broca's area to Vernix area. They convey the information from Vernix area, that is right in the occipital cortex to the frontal cortex, a long distance to travel from here. It is traveling to Broca's area. And this is the Broca's area is affected, motor speech will be affected. Vernix area is affected, sensory speech will be affected. If both are affected, global aphasia occurs. Angulus gyrus is necessary for visual analysis. Something you are reading, that should be analyzed in the angular gyrus. Something you are reading, and if you are reading and you want to write something, seeing aspect, that angular gyrus. This information is going from 17, 18 and 19, 17 to 18, 18 to 18 and 19 to angular gyrus. And from the angular gyrus, again it's going to Vernix area. From the Vernix area, it's going to the Broca's area. Broca's area, if you want to write, it's going to Exner's area and the motor area number 4. And if you don't want to write, it's directly going from Broca's area to motor area, and your muscles of articulation, that is mouth, etc., larynx, vocal cords, etc., being this thing, and you are starting answering. But if you want to write, it's going to Exner's area, and along with coordination is the area number 10 and 4. Your the muscles of motor muscles of the hands are getting activated, and you start writing. Therefore, this is the gross picture. Now, development of speech. Let's see how speech is developed in a young child. The first stage, when he's born, he is not able to speak anything. That is there. Therefore, what happens is that in this stage, what happens? The child gets associated with certain words. These are the people surrounding him, the people who are close to him, they'll be uttering, whether he understands or not, the people will be uttering some words to the newborn child. Therefore, in this stage, what happens? These visual stimulus, the stimulus occurring through visual, auditory, tactile, and other sensations, they keep on talking to him. This gets stored in the memory, and the words are learned. This gets stored first in the memory, and the words are there. Short-term memory and long-term memory, and this finally gets stored in the memory. Therefore, the people around the child, little baby, they talk whatever they talk. This unintentionally, they through visual, touching, hearing, seeing, all these things, the other sensations, they get accustomed to certain words, and this gets stored in their memory. The next stage, what happens is new circuits are established. New circuits are established between auditory and motor areas, which control the muscles of articulation. The child will be hearing and hearing and hearing, whether it understands or not, that is immaterial. And then finally, it is stored in the memory, and new circuits are established between auditory and motor areas. Then there, in turn, they control the muscles of articulation. The child attempts to pronounce the learned words little by little. First a monosyllabus, and then little by little it learns to. Therefore, it's better if you talk to a child repeatedly. A babies, if you talk, they might learn soon or something like that. Therefore, it's a nice thing to talk to a newborn babies continuously. Therefore, they might catch up with the words early. Now we have this line diagram is there, a little bit just for your remembrance and to make you easy to learn. This line diagram should be in your mind always. Yeah, line diagram. So you are hearing of this, I have discussed now, but again, just for your sake, this line diagrams are very important. The perception of sound first occurs from area number 41. This area, then it goes to interpretation areas, Vernix area. And then from Vernix area to Broca's area via arcuate fasciculus. This is the fibers carrying information, as I've already shown you in the figure. And from the motor cortex, then muscles of speech. This is the perception of sound. Suppose somebody is saying something and you want to answer. This is the simple process. And if you remember this line diagram, you will build up the rest of the story. Therefore, this line diagram, please practice this line diagram. And if you have spoken word, how you are answering a person, where man-to-man communication, how it is done. This is gives a very beautiful picture. You just remember this, and the rest of the story you can build up. Coming to the written words, suppose something you are seeing, this also line diagram, please remember. Suppose written words, how a speech is produced, same thing, but it's coming from area number 17, because you are seeing visual input comes from area number 17. There the auditory input was coming from area number 41, 40. Here visual input is coming from area number 17. This difference you should bear in mind, because you are seeing area number 17 should obviously get activated. And then association areas come into play because they are interpreting. Then angler-gyrus, a further interpretation and clear that idea of what you are reading you get. And the rest of the story is same. Area 22, Vernix area, further interpretation of from angler-gyrus and area number 22. All this information goes to area number 44. And from here to primary motor cortex, muscle. Here the rest of the story is same. From area number 22, it is same. Only here angler-gyrus is involved. This difference you should bear in mind. And these 3 points, first area 17, 18, 19, this is for visual. Visual automatically brings in area number 17. Therefore, you please bear in mind the angler-gyrus part comes only in the visual inputs. Only it comes in visual. It doesn't come when we are talking face to face with a person. Now we coming to the applied physiology. The term aphasia, we have got the applied physiology, that is the defects. The term aphasia means a defective speech. And this may be due to cortical areas required for speech making, that is the Broca's area. And this is mainly due to thrombosis of feeding artery. This is mainly due to thrombosis, that is whatever the artery that is feeding the main region, that may be getting thrombus. Therefore, the supply is not there, and therefore the function is defective. Aphasias have been classified into 3 types: sensory, motor, and global. In sensory aphasia, we see that Vernix area is destroyed. Patient hears all right, everything is there, the communication is there, but one cannot understand what is hearing. He has heard all right, the sound has come, but that interpretation part is not there. Difficulty in understanding the meaning is not under, because Vernix area is destroyed. Motor speech is in this, motor speech is intact. He talks fluently, but doesn't make much sense because interpretation is not there. Here, see the one. In sensory aphasia, difficulty in understanding. Understanding is difficulty, the meaning of speech. In motor, therefore, what is happening? He can talk, nothing happens. Talking is okay. He's talking fluently, but doesn't make much sense, because what he's talking when he's not able to understand what the other person is telling, the interpretation part is not there. What he's talking, talks fluent, but does not make much sense. And he has inability to find appropriate word. He doesn't find it. He keeps thinking about the words. He cannot find the proper word. He'll be searching for the words. Neologism is he creates a new words, new meanings. As established words are there. And new words and new nonsense meanings that he creates. Therefore, the person will not be able to understand why he's bringing in new names. One has to think about this abnormality. Bringing in a new names or new things for established words, abnormality might be there. Then paraphasias, that is production of unintended words. Suppose he's talking to you, unintended words, he's not intending to bring in those words or phrases, but unintentionally those words comes. They are called as paraphasias. And the impairment in reading and writing. he is an impairment in, because he's not understanding properly. Therefore, there's impairment in reading and writing. Conduction aphasia. Patient cannot put parts of words together. He cannot make sentences properly. In motor aphasia, the Broca's area 44 of the dominant hemisphere is defective. The Broca's area 44 of the dominant hemisphere is defective. The person finds difficulty in speaking. The patient cannot formulate a language, verbal language in his mind. The difficulty in making a speech. He can understand, but he cannot form the language in his mind, but he cannot speak. Difficulty in speaking. The patient can formulate verbal language in his mind, he can understand. Everything is okay because Wernicke's area is okay. He is understand, but he cannot speak. Speech is not fluent. The patient utters few words with a difficulty. This is because of the dominant hemisphere of Broca's area is it is defective. Then inability to write, agraphia, inability to write, because this thing, stimulus is conveyed from area number 44 to primary motor cortex, and that is responsible for the other motor areas to get activated and the muscles to get activated, therefore inability to write. In global aphasia, there is a loss of both Wernicke's and Broca's area. There is a total loss of language communication. Both sensory and motor areas are lost, and therefore there is a total loss of language communication. And the causes of aphasia are mostly produced by thrombosis or embolism of blood vessels in the dominant hemisphere. Thrombosis or embolism of blood vessels in the dominant hemisphere. They are usually associated with right-sided motor and sensory deficit. Both motor and sensory deficit usually occur combinedly, but sometimes they may also occur independently. Suppose the lesion is restricted to only one cortical association area or something like that, then it may occur independently, but mostly the motor and sensory aphasias occur in a combined fashion. Dysarthria. Dysarthria is not aphasia. In dysarthria, there is a defect in the motor cortex, cerebellum, or basal ganglia. Here, dysarthria is not aphasia. Aphasia, it is only a defect in the motor cortex, cerebellum, or basal ganglia, so that vocalization is imperfect. Vocalization, maybe that is whatever he is saying, we may not be in a perfect manner. That is, he is not uttering in a perfect manner. It may be imperfect. This we see commonly in a Parkinson's disease. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Meet in our next class. స్ట్రక్చర్ అప్పటికి వెళ్ళింది.